Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for Embracing the Change of My Midlife, part of SWHR's Menopause Mindfulness webinar series. I'm Irina Ninye, Chief Science Officer of the Society for Women's Health Research. SWHR is the thought leader in promoting research on biological sex differences and improving women's health through science, policy, and education. We're pleased to have three amazing panelists joining us today for today's event: Wanda Edwards, Kathleen Hawley, and Nina Kuipers. These women will share their personal menopause journeys, each unique, but hopefully providing insight for those of you watching as to how you might navigate your menopause transition or support other women during theirs. I would like to thank the sponsor of today's event, Astellas Pharma. We'll be live tweeting during this event, and we invite you to use the hashtag SWHR Talks Menopause on all social media. Approximately 1.3 million women in the United States transition into menopause each year. Typically, in a woman's late 40s or 50s, the body undergoes hormonal changes characterized by a significant decrease in estrogen. On average, the menopause transition, also known as perimenopause, is about 4 years long, but for some women, it can last up to 10 or more years before periods stop completely. Menopause itself is marked as 12 months after a woman's last menstrual cycle. We've all heard of hot flashes and hot flushes, which are vasomotor symptoms caused by estrogen depletion. During perimenopause, women often can experience brain fog, sleep, and mood disturbances, as well as genital and urinary symptoms such as vaginal dryness, urinary incontinence, and reduced sex drive. Menopausal symptoms and experiences vary widely from person to person. Raising awareness and improving access to information about menopause can help reduce stigma surrounding menopause and aging, and better prepare women and their healthcare providers to address potential challenges during this stage of their lives. SWHR's Menopause Mindfulness series was created to share educational material about the impact of menopause on women's health. These events will discuss how to improve health outcomes through recognizing and addressing symptoms, comorbidities, treatment options, and barriers to accessing quality care, while highlighting the diverse experiences of women throughout the menopause transition. I'll now introduce Wanda Edwards, who will share about her menopause symptoms and what approaches she's taken to manage them. Thank you for joining us, Wanda.
Good afternoon, and I thank you for having me. I got tickled because I was like, who wants to hear about my hot flash journey? And so because someone wants to hear it, I'm excited about sharing. And so again, good afternoon. I was blessed on last Wednesday to celebrate my 61st birthday. Yay! So shortly after that, I had an appointment with my OB-GYN, and one of my first questions was, anything new, anything out there that can help me with my hot flashes, because I am still going through hot flashes after 13 years. My last cycle was in 2008. And it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. When I first started my journey, it was tough and rougher than it is now. And so, you know, after all these many years, it is part of my lifestyle now. So I was only 48 when I first started having these hot sensations that just felt like they were coming from within my body, out of my body. I knew growing up that my mom went through menopause, and I remember looking at her, you know, with sweat and just weak and having to sit down and not being able to function. And it didn't happen all the time, but when it happened, I would say, I don't want to do that when I grow up. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. And lo and behold, I'm the third of three girls, and my two sisters have mild symptoms, and I have the most severe of the hot flashes. So, don't blame my mom, but I'm like, I hate I even saw that, because, now when I first started, I was kind of panicking because I didn't want to be that weak, and I didn't want, to kind of not continue my life, because I felt bad. And so when I started with menopause, and of course hot flashes, and I thank God too, though, that some of the other symptoms, I didn't mood swings and night sweats. I don't do night sweats. It is just during the day that I have to pick up my fan like every hour on the hour, and sometimes even more than that, just so I don't get too hot. So when I started out, there was some medical prescription drugs that I could take, but I didn't want to do that, because I didn't want to have to then deal with any side effects that would come from that. So I did try some natural over-the-counter kinds of things, such as black gohash, and it helped for a while. And I had been praying about it. So one Sunday I was in church, and I keep my fan. I have fans everywhere I go. So I was in church and my fan broke. And because I had been praying that I would get rid of my hot flashes, and when my fan broke, I took that as a sign that, oh my God, I'm finished with hot flashes. I'm not having any more hot flashes. But sure enough, I did not have hot flashes for maybe about 3 to 4 months. And then they came back with a vengeance. And I was like, oh gosh, so I guess I'm gonna have to go through this. And so I've been dealing with it ever since. And so when I first started, like I said, I'm trying to grab everything, and I'm listening to everybody about what can help and what helped them, from eating a bag of almonds a week. And I'm laughing at myself now, because they said almonds will help. They was like, get a cold bottle of water and put it on your forehead and then put it on your neck. That would help. None of that helped Wanda. And so then, I just made a decision that, I would just rather go ahead and have my fan handed than to keep trying these things that really were not working for me. And then, because of the position I am in with hot flashes, for me, when I first started, came the embarrassment of hot flashes. So here I am sitting in a meeting with leaders in my organization, and I am having a hot flash. And so I am trying not to let them see that I'm having a hot flash. But I know if I don't pick up my fan, they're going to see it over my face. And so I have my fan kind of in my lap, just hoping that the cool air will hit my face, but they don't see the fan like I'm doing now. I'm having a hot flash now, and I have my fan where you don't see it, but I'm constantly trying to cool myself off. And so there was a point where, people were looking at me like, I can't believe in the middle of this. And, we had some black tie events, and here I am dressed to the nines, and I got my fan because I cannot function if I have a hot flash. I become weak and I have to lean up against something, or I have to sit down. So the best thing for me is just to have my fan so that I can continue to, cool off when that happens. And like I said, it was an embarrassment because, again, I was in the middle of a lot of things, and people were just not talking about going through menopause. And so for a while, I tried to hide it. I would go into the bathroom when I felt one coming on, and if I were out anywhere, I'd run to the bathroom and, go into a stall with my fan and just fan until, I cooled down. And then after a while, I said, you know what, Wanda, I ain't going through that again. People would see me and say, oh, you're having a personal summer. Yeah, I'm having a personal summer. Just give me 1 minute, give me 1 minute. And usually that's all it takes, is a minute and a half. And I'm fine. So my ex-husband, I've been divorced now 2 years, going on 3 years. And I remember my poor ex-husband. We would be in the movies, and I would be so hot, I'd get my fan, and he'd be like, boo, can you fan the other way? Because I ain't hot, I'm cold. Okay, let me move my fan to this hand. and fan. And even I love dancing. And even when we would go out dancing, I would time, now this is the truth, I would time a hot flash because I didn't want to be on the dance floor when I had a hot flash because all would be lost. And so when I would have a hot flash, then I tell my ex-husband, okay, we can go dance now. So, and I dance and then come back and sit down, but didn't want to be caught off guard without my fan. And so, like I said, it just became a point where I was not going to be embarrassed anymore about having my fan. And people have now started giving me gifts for birthday and Christmases, beautiful fans. So I have a fan like from Spain and China, because now I have embraced it as part of who I am. And even now, if we're in a meeting and I pull out my fan, and if I'm the one talking, everybody, they'll just ignore it. Give her a minute, she'll be back. And so I appreciate that. And so, for anyone who is listening that, is going through what I am going through, and again, it's been 13 years for me, and I have said, how much longer am I going to have to go through this? But I'm in good health. And so until, they find something just for hot flashes, because I had one doctor, to tell me that they have found, a depression medicine helps hot flashes. And I said, but I ain't depressed, so I don't want to go through that piece. And so I didn't. And so here I sit, hoping that I won't have to go through it much longer. And if I do that, researchers and scientists and somebody out there that just said, I haven't had enough and I'm gonna see what I can do, develop something that can help women who have gone or are going through hot flashes. So that's my story.
Thank you so much for sharing, Wanda. 12 years. So that is an interesting amount of time. But as you said, even just, I love how you said you're able to embrace it. And now it's something that's become normalized in your environment where it's no longer a thing that you have to be embarrassed about. So thank you very much. Next, we will have Kathleen Hawley discuss her menopause journey and why she's excited to be on the other side of her menopause transition.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Like Wanda, I am also surprised anybody wants to hear about my journey, but happy to tell it. I think sharing with others is always helpful. We can find something in common through our experiences that way. I also love the way Wanda called it her personal, what did you call it? Your personal, yes, I call it my own inner tropical vacation. And I've been having those hot flashes since I was 40. I'm 57, so I've beat you by a few years, Wanda, on having hot flashes. But fortunately, I stopped menstruating at the age of 51. So by the time I was 52, I was officially in menopause. And I have also suffered some of the same things that Wanda described. I'm retired now, but when I was working, I worked in a high school for many, many years, and I would show up in Wyoming in December with sandals on because I was trying to manage those temperature fluctuations throughout the day. I might wear my snow boots in from the parking lot and promptly put on a pair of open-toed sandals for the rest of the day. Also learn to dress in layers and just do things like that. I've tried to embrace this journey. I've chosen not to do any hormone therapy. I'm trying to adjust what I wear, what I eat and drink throughout the day to help with some of the symptoms. Ice water's my friend. And I limit my coffee intake, my alcohol intake, just because those two beverages seem to increase the hot flashes for me. So I time when I stop having my coffee in the morning and switch to ice water for the rest of the remainder of the day. Wine tends to also bring on a hot flash. So I do that for celebrations occasionally. Anyhow, it's quite a journey to go through menopause. Part of what I've decided to do is to just embrace it. It's an opportunity to learn who I am now in this other half of my life, where I'm not focusing on raising a family and taking care of others. I can kind of focus on myself. So part of that, it has been changing my diet, not just in the beverages that I choose throughout the day, but also in the amount of leafy greens and nuts that do help me with some of the symptoms of menopause. I have not found anything quite yet that helps me with the sleeplessness at night. So I am still kind of researching what will benefit me there without taking a prescription or an over-the-counter sleep aid. Exercising daily does also help my symptoms. Just getting some of the pent-up energy out. When you're not going to work every day, you do find that you need to do something else throughout the day to kind of move your body. I think moving is probably just any way you can the best thing I've found to help reduce symptoms. I've experienced the weight gain in the last few years, the restless nights. Might have to check my notes here to tell you my story completely, but doing some daily exercise has really helped. I'm finding even when we're snowed in, like Nina and I were talking about earlier, that there's great videos that you can access on your phone or your laptop or whatever it is. I do a lot of Zumba and walking videos and spinning videos. I'm on equipment here at home that really helps get some of the, I'm not sure what it helps get rid of, but I tend to not have as many symptoms from menopause with that daily exercise. What I really like to do though is celebrate and just accept where I am in life right now and honor that part of my life that's changing. Being in communication with my partner or my doctor or my children, just so they know what I'm going through and might have some helpful suggestions for me. My doctor's very, very sympathetic and helpful with menopausal symptoms, and I appreciate that ability to speak with her whenever I need to. And I would encourage anyone listening to always share your story with those that you love or those that can help you, and not just keep it in like some kind of a bad thing, because I truly believe that this second half of my life is probably going to be better than the first in a lot of ways. I look forward to celebrating in a few years my 60th birthday. That's coming sooner than later for me, and just knowing that it doesn't have to be a midlife crisis. It can be a midlife celebration. I'm not sure what else I can tell you about my journey. I don't have any. My mother had a full hysterectomy by the time I was 30, and most of my female relatives had passed by the time I had started having my own children. And so I didn't have a lot of family history to go off of. My sister, who is 12 months older than I am, didn't enter menopause until just last year. So she started a little later, even though she's a little older than I am. So we're kind of going through it together and talking about it together. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of background history to go off of for these types of issues. So just navigating it as it comes along for myself and what's good for me. Um, that's about it. I think that's all I can tell you about my journey.
Well, thank you very much, Kathy. We appreciate you sharing, and very interesting. And you said your sister is older, but entered her menopause transition after you did. And so I guess she's older, but you're wiser at this point.
Well, that's up for debate.
Yeah. But just that idea that it's not a guarantee. There is no particular age, there is no particular sequence, everyone, and you're in the same family. So it's not even something that you can particularly predict.
Right. Yes,
So
correct. Yes.
we would like to note before moving on to our next speaker that anybody who's tuned in live, you can submit questions at any time using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We will try to address as many as we can during the panel discussion portion of this event. And so last but not least, we have Nina Kuipers, who will discuss how she navigated misdiagnoses actually due to her early menopause transition, and also how she's embarked upon advocacy work to support others in the menopause space. Nina?
Greetings, everybody. I'm Nina Kuipers, all the way from the UK, where it is windy and very wet. And as we go through my experience about misdiagnosis due to early perimenopause and building communities of support. So I'd just like to say many thanks for being invited to talk along with the other ladies about my menopausal experience. So first of all, I would just like to ask a question. So if you write down or mentally note, what do you see when looking at me? If you put woman, then was that really your answer? As I find that this is one of the first obstacles, as what people really see is a Black woman, or maybe you even put the term strong. Couple this with the word menopause, which you can't see, as menopause is out of sight and therefore out of people's minds. So let me put that into context for you. We all have unconscious biases. So for my journey, after scouring the internet, it quickly became apparent to myself from the images that I was greeted with was not what I was expecting or envisaging. I thought, why are there few Black people and people of other ethnic minorities not represented in the media, particularly in the UK media, about their menopausal experiences? And the images that greeted me and the experiences portrayed didn't resonate with me on a personal level. I didn't have a place to discuss with other Black people about their experiences or my experiences. And couple this with the knowledge, with the fact that many healthcare professionals, GPs in the UK aren't trained about menopause. On top of barriers talking about those cultural elements as well, then it makes half the process of the rest of the planet that's going to go through this even more challenging. I call it, like many of the others spoken this evening, my menopause holiday. You might be thinking, what is this? A menopause holiday? Well, it was me embarking on my meno destinations during perimenopause and menopause, with lots of suitcases being packed and unpacked, trying to decide what would be best to take. Bearing in mind at this stage, I had a 3-year-old whose suitcases I also had to pack for holiday as well. As you can see in the image, 2015 was the year. How was this a menopause holiday? I have to admit, I didn't even recognize any of the menopause destinations that I was fortunate to visit. What I do know is I still have many destinations to visit. My first destination, I call it, was a crash landing, one-way ticket. I'm embarrassed to say and confess that at age 43, I had been diagnosed perimenopausal. What does that even mean? When I went to the GP, they handed me this one-way perimenopausal ticket. It didn't even register. I was actually there to discuss my blood tests about something else. What followed was nothing. I was sent on my merry way. Have a great holiday, Nina. Zero conversation with the GP. Not a leaflet, nothing. No ideas of what to pack or who to go to help me. Surely there should have been a leaflet that says, welcome to your first destination on your Menopause holiday. And here's some more information to help you. What to pack, what you need. For me, I had heard what the GP had said, but I didn't really take it on board or even ask for more details. Though remember, I was there for something else. I'd always thought I'd been quite mindful and understood about certain medical matters. And I had briefly discussed with my mum about menopause, but let's be honest, it wasn't something that we'd ever delved into a profound conversation. Perhaps I was somewhat naive myself, but I had so many other things going on in my life that I suppose it wasn't my priority at the time to visit this destination. As I said, I'm classed as a geriatric mum. At 43, I had a 3.5-year-old son. What did I know? You have hot flushes now and again, or hot flashes. Is that it? It's quintessential. No, it wasn't. I didn't have, oh, I'm feeling different physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. What I presented to the GPs, both female and male, were a range of symptoms on and off for I don't know how many years preceding that diagnosis at 43. I've got many destinations to go, and these symptoms were not your classic menopausal symptoms. As I said, hot flashes aren't quintessential to perimenopause. I had strange body odors, polka dot skin, to Tin Man joints, coarse thinning hair, to allergies, dental issues, and hyperpigmentation. As the GPs were trying to piece together the whys, which I think not N equals 1 for Nina, but what they often attributed to type 2 diabetes. They often overlooked menopause. Why? Well, excellent question. Could this have been down to age and or ethnicity? Excuse me. So, my menopause holiday, 43 years of age, too young. Is 43 too young? Obviously not. Some of the symptoms that I presented could have been indicative of pre-diabetes, though other factors such as body mass index or metabolic syndrome were not factors that could be considered. My BMI was fine. I didn't have hypertension, high blood pressure, blood lipid profile was fine. So what do I pack in these suitcases of mine? Another excellent question. Once I had landed at my perimenopause destination and dusted off my sand full of sandals, I started to do some research about it. Dr. Google, Dr. Bing, and any other platforms in which you can access that information. I don't want any biases there. I'm now postmenopausal, and I have been for 3 years. Several months later, that is when the penny dropped, though I'm still having many penny drop moments, let's be honest, about the bloating, the itchy skin, the headaches, which aren't indicative of pre-type 2 diabetes, and clearly brain fog as well. It's no coincidence that menopausal Black people often have a high prevalence of things like type 2 diabetes and heart disease, where we're not informed of that estrogen plays a role in insulin resistance. What to pack? Well, I've dabbled in hormone replacement therapy on and off before I entered postmenopause, during perimenopause. That holiday during perimenopause for those number of years with hormone replacement therapy was not one to remember, trust me, and we parted ways after several turbulent months. It wasn't until I entered postmenopause that I actually decided I need to make a conscious effort and try again. Why? Because I want longevity, with heart disease being the biggest killer at the top of the menopause mountain, and other health issues, dementia, osteoporosis, sarcopenia. My other main suitcases, along with HRT suitcases, are lifestyle based. Sleep, moving the Meno movement ball, what I call activity levels, dealing with stress, diet, and hydration. Well, I know I've got many more destinations to go, though now, age 49, I know my suitcases are much better equipped. So say I'm postmenopausal at 49 and I'm heading into my 6th decade. So I'm the baby of this today's presentation, but I wish I'd known more about it before setting off on those travels, but it isn't too late, and it never is. Being postmenopausal, it doesn't mean the end. I have to explore, manage, and modify in order to have a blast on this holiday, as I previously had before. It's not a period in life to think, that's it. You have control over certain parts. For example, take the weather. Like here, it's raining. It may last for a day or several days. Eventually, it will taper off or even stop. You have to accept that, but it may not be sunshine that precedes the rain. It could be a thunderstorm instead. It will vary. There are things you can do. For example, stay inside or put on appropriate clothing, or during those hot flushes, take them off because it's hot in here. It's out of your control, and some things we have to accept. But we need to understand that everybody's menopause map is different. Yes, there's similarities, and we'll each respond differently to the many different tools out there. So I was thinking, well, what are some of the challenges that Black women experience through menopause? And this is based on some of the things that I do in the UK supporting other Black women. Could be our hair, the perception of being strong, skin, not always seen and valued, health inequalities, marginalized, the lack of research done, particularly in the UK. Yes, I know that America, you've had the SWAN study done, but again, different environment, different diets, etc., can play massively into it. And not feeling alone. So this is why I set up the Menopause Travel Agency. Why? to help other people. It's what I can do to share my story. It's a canvas, very much one color. It's not a menopause revolution if the images out there and our stories aren't being put up. This is an agency in the form of a Facebook private group, which is a safe place. And we put on educational free events for Black people and people of colour to share their experiences and learn from Black professionals, as it's the lack of misinformation often out there on the internet being echo chambered. Menopause isn't just from the neck downwards, it's above and beyond. And I know I've been piecing together the jigsaw pieces for myself, and it's evident that those pieces were spelling the word, yes, menopause. We all need to collectively dismantle existing taboos and stigmas. Menopause does not discriminate. I have many identities. Some are positive, some are negative. Not through labeling or judging of myself, but often those given by others. What do I mean by that? By labeling me as a menopause woman, what images or thoughts does that conjure up, or what do you see? For me, I'm not menopause, and menopause isn't me. Many thanks for taking the time to listen to me dribble on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. I like how you put it. It's a journey. There's, you have to pack well, but when you hit different destinations, you have to adjust. And it seems that that's something that echoes throughout all of your stories, that it's not been the same throughout. You've had to make many adjustments along the way to be able to manage symptoms and just where you are in life. So we thank you very much, everyone, for sharing and setting the stage for the Q&A portion of this webinar. Again, we invite attendees to submit questions using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to address as many individual questions as well as common themes as we can during this portion. And so to open up the conversation while we're pinning everybody on the screen, you guys each expressed some type of trial and error, kind of like we said, in a need to readjust your approach to managing your menopause care. Can you give maybe one or two particularly effective ways that you learned to communicate your symptoms or your distress to your healthcare provider? Because I think that can be a challenge by the time you get into the office. How have you found are effective ways that you can convey what's going on so that your healthcare provider can provide you better care?
You mind if I go?
Sure.
Irene?
Yes.
I would like to answer because I just done this. My yearly checkup was only 2 weeks ago, and I took in a sleep log and had kept a dietary log also since after the holidays, where you're not always being so good. So for January and the first couple of weeks of February, I had at least 6 weeks worth of data points for her, so that I could show her exactly what was happening with me. And that seemed to really help. So there's one way you could communicate with a physician.
So for me, I try to always do my regular check-ins, whether or not it's with my mammogram or with my family doctor or my medical doctor, female doctor. And so as soon as I started having hot flashes, I knew because of my mom, I knew that I was getting ready to go through it because they came on, like I said, with the sensation. And so I just had the conversation with her. And the beautiful piece about it is I have had the same doctor through this journey. And so, just telling the truth about, what I was feeling, and I really, don't want to go through the hot flashes. So actually just being open about the conversation. And so when you look again at some of the other symptoms, the dryness, the painful intercourse, I didn't have any of that. It has just been these hot flashes. So.
For myself, it was difficult because obviously I was still, what I class myself as a young, despite medically geriatric mother, that was going in with a variety of symptoms and being diagnosed for other possible illnesses, such as the type 2 or pre-diabetes, when not having the informed choices and knowledge. If I'd been, so what I think about is that we're prepared for puberty, we're prepared for periods, we're prepared for pregnancy or preventing pregnancy, but we're very unprepared for perimenopause. And if I'd been given more information, then maybe at that particular point in time, I could have challenged the narrative that I was having with my GP healthcare professional during those symptoms, that I was constantly going back and forth, that no, I wasn't a type 2 diabetic, and certainly it wasn't type 1 diabetes as well.
Kathy, did I see you on mute? You wanted to add something?
I appreciate what Nina just said. I have suffered also a heart issue through menopause, and was able to designate between the two issues because of being aware of my menopausal symptoms and these other symptoms not being in line with some of that. Again, not having family history or female mentors to help me with these issues. I went to, the internet. I went to my doctor. I went to different books and articles and joined different e-newsletters. Red Hot Mamas is one of them. It's a great name. Plus they have some really good information. So when I ended up having heart problems and receiving a stent in the last 6 months, I was able to determine symptom from symptom and get the appropriate help I needed. So being able to discuss these things with the people we trust is one of the ways you can be a self advocate for yourself when it comes to talking to professionals about what your health symptoms are. And I figured a log, a journal of food and sleeplessness and different things like that, fatigue, and when I was feeling muscle aches and pains and whatnot, would help us all determine what was going on with me. I have also shared my story with my daughter, who will be 37 here shortly, and could very possibly start some of these perimenopausal symptoms, such as Nina and myself, around the age of 40. So trying to help her with those symptoms, because they are serious and can be debilitating. And though we sometimes make light of it, and it's always good to laugh, especially if you can laugh at yourself. These are serious things to make sure you have a good understanding of what's going on in your own body. So
if I can add there as well, Irene, is that, I got pregnant at age 39. If I'd known a little bit about what may occur, then in terms of infertility, so that kind of shut the door on just being able to have one child, and that was it, due to being perimenopause. And yes, I'm fully aware that that you can still get pregnant during that time, and I did, but unfortunately I suffered 2 miscarriages. It wasn't meant to be during that particular period in time. But it's that lack of information and addressing. I'm aware it's very different over here in the UK, but where I'm presenting with many different things, and I'm someone who takes, or proactively has always taken care of myself in terms of nutrition, activity, sleep. You know, I know insomnia is debilitating for so many menopausal women. For me, unfortunate enough, that isn't one of the symptoms, but it's also about having cultural competent conversations. And for myself, when I'm worried about my, you know, you can see there, coarse thinning hair, bald patches, the last thing I want to hear from a healthcare professional is, but you've got such lovely thick hair, when it's a concern, or the changes in my skin tone that they might have, you know, I've been so many tests for so many things that have been wasted upon, that it's just a bubble that's going round, but nobody's pinpricking that bubble to let this information out and provide us with that information to inform. I shouldn't really need to be checking and challenging healthcare professionals. Thank you.
There is, I know you guys have touched on the use or not for hormone therapy, and we hear it so much associated with women in menopause doing hormone therapy, hormone replacement therapy. Can you talk about or share what were the things you considered when, you know, deciding to or not? What did you take into consideration with deciding to do hormone therapy, to not do it? I think, Nina, you said you used it, but then you stopped, just to be able to help women kind of think through, you know, what are some of those factors that you found important to you?
I'll be honest, the first port of call was, I don't need HRT. I can do this through lifestyle balance and acts of, as I said, different suitcases. But then you're hearing misinformation, you know, that HRT is the golden Willy Wonka chocolate factory ticket, and it's going to be the be all and end all. So I dabbled in it for a while, from patches to tablets, but I didn't want to bleed. And I just knew physically, emotionally, and mentally at that particular point in the time, I was in and out and in and out. When I say that, I just didn't take it for 2 weeks. I know it takes time for the body to adjust. But then it was accessing information to understand, well, once you are post-menopause, you need something to help stave off in terms of coronary heart disease, osteoporosis, dementia. And having a young son who's now 10, and he's full of the menopause in terms of some knowledge in his mind, is I want to be able to do things with him. So anything to make things easier for myself. You know, it's the same for those that have periods and contraception. So I went back to it, and that ultimate ticket was understanding the consequences that can significantly increase for what hopefully is going to be another third of my lifetime that I'm going to spend in this particular awesome period of my life, because it's not all doom and gloom.
Wanda or Kathy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
So for me, you know, as I said, my doctor gave me some options, but all of them came with side effects, and I was just not willing to risk it. And so, you know, I too, you know, began to exercise, and again, I thank goodness that I have maintained my weight. It fluctuated some, but over these, you know, 13 years, I have kind of maintained, you know, up or down 5 pounds. But again, I just didn't want the side effects that came with it. So I kind of ate differently and still eat differently, but exercise and walking and just making sure my fan is close to me. So yeah, and that's really why I just never wanted to try anything else, because of the side effects.
Well, I honor our panelists' journeys with hormone therapy or not. I believe we're all different in those ways. I discussed it with my doctor, the therapy options, and she gave me some good information. I just decided to see how it would go, and without and good days, bad days, all intermix. I am trying, similarly to Wanda, some diet and exercise options. I know more about what not to eat or drink than what maybe is more helpful. And as I continue through this, I will more than likely need to investigate the lack of sleep, the sleeplessness portion of it, the insomnia. That is debilitating on all levels. So that is my current challenge with menopausal symptoms. But just keeping an open mind and a good attitude, I think, is most of it, and being willing to accept what is going to help you the best is what we all need to do individually. And so that is my next step, is to figure out how to get some more restful sleep. So no tried or true answers here.
And we're all so unique. That's the thing, where each one of us is our own experiment, and what works for one will not necessarily work for another on whatever path that you go down. It's just fantastic to share and hear other people's experiences and know that you're not alone in it. And within the Black community, for myself, it's very much go down the natural route, which is what I did to begin with. To say it's not for everybody on each. And as Kathleen has rightly said there, you have to respect everybody else's choices. It's their choice for better health currency overall for them, what they see fit at that particular moment in time. I was adamant wasn't going to do it. Now I'm on the other bus. Who knows? I might jump back off. I'm still trialing it. So please, don't mishear me in terms of that. The journey on this HRT path is still a little turbulent as well, but much better than previously. And there's so many other cofactors that could play into that. I couldn't necessarily say track, measure to see, but it's so difficult. And I'm blessed to be here with Kathleen and Wanda.
It's something that I heard, regardless of if it was the HRT, the Black cohort, the whichever regiment you guys were doing, you kept communicating with your healthcare providers to make sure that they were also tracking your progress and having those conversations. And that is really, really important, I think, because even if they're not hearing you, like Nina, you said you had been going for years. And I think all of you guys, because you didn't know what was going on with this perimenopause. And so you had continually gone back. And I know that can be very distressing, very frustrating, but not giving up until you've come to that place where you understand what's going on and you can now begin to manage your symptoms, and then also look at other health conditions or factors that might be important at this particular stage of your life. And I do want to, before we wrap up, I want to just do a quick round robin. What is the quirkiest advice you've received to manage your symptoms? I know you mentioned like almonds, and was it, if it's from a doctor or a friend, and was it helpful? Because like you said, everything, you never know. You might have gotten something really quirky and it worked, or it didn't work, but it might work for somebody else. So maybe just a quick round robin. Go ahead, Wanda.
I think for me, again, it was the doctor who said to me, and it was not my regular doctor. I was volunteering for the homeless, and the churches came together. So it was a doctor that belonged to another organization, and he was a OBGYN doctor, and he said that the research has found that the depression medicine, there's an ingredient in the depression medicine that really helps with hot flashes. And I said to him, why can't you just take that ingredient out of that depression medicine and make me something for hot flashes only? Because I didn't understand that. How are you going to tell me to take depression medicine because it helps with my hot flashes? Again, side effects. And so, yeah, I think that was the weirdest thing that a doctor could tell me.
I actually couldn't think of a wacky suggestion. It seems strange, but sitting here listening to Wanda and trying to think of something for myself, I'm sorry, Irene, I couldn't come up with anything. I'm sure tomorrow I'll hear something crazy, but as of right now, I don't have an answer. I apologize.
Nina, did you have it? Okay.
I'm in Kathleen's boat on that. And again, being in the UK, it's like you go to your GP or healthcare professional, but then I had to be proactive and then going to see a menopause specialist. I'm fortunate that with it being on the NHS, it's free. So I've been proactive. So in terms of echo chambers of weird things, I would unfortunately I'd be polarized on that. I wouldn't necessarily do it because I just wouldn't know. But I'm sure there's many people out there that have heard of some very wacky ways in which to do it. Maybe a tinfoil hat.
Okay, because I think earlier there was a mention of almonds and eating a lot of almonds.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, a friend of mine said that eating almonds helped her, and you know, I like I said, I tried everything, and so I did. I went and bought some almonds and took them as snacks every day, and I did it for about 2 months, and that didn't help me. So I was like, yeah, let me move on to something else. Maybe it took longer than that, but for her, she said that she saw some relief right away, but it didn't help for me.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you guys so much. We want to wrap up with one brief question we get, and that we can just go around. We get patients and general audiences, researchers, clinicians, industry stakeholders, healthcare policymakers that all tune into our events. What is one takeaway that each of you would recommend to one or all of these viewer groups to help them support women as they address menopause and midlife aging? And so we can start with Kathleen. Can you start, then Wanda, and then Nina?
Be happy to. Thank you. I would say listen to us when we come talk to you. Sometimes it's a brave act to come and speak to a professional about our personal situations and sometimes embarrassing things that are going on with our bodies. Life is so busy and we are so consumed by other things than what's happening with ourselves. Most women are givers and not takers, and it's hard for us to take the time to recognize what's happening with ourselves and then be our own advocates to try to get help. So whether you come up as a healthcare professional or physician, come up with a questionnaire or a journaling suggestion or whatever, would be helpful for those of us so that we're not searching for all the answers by ourselves or all of the ways to communicate about our our health issues with you, to just honor that. Like Nina was saying, we are individuals, and we need to be respected for the things that we're feeling, and especially some of the mental aspects that come along with menopause, some of the different things that go on in our brains more than our bodies, if that makes sense. Some of the different thoughts and struggles that we have with focus for a little while. So that would be the one suggestion I would have, just to please listen patiently and carefully to what we're saying, and give us some sound advice and encouragement.
So for me, I would say to more awareness, to talk about it more, to not let it be something that you are ashamed of, because as I tell people, I'd rather be going through menopause than dead. So I'll take it any day. But I think in my circle of young women and my nieces, having the conversation about what it looks like. And I have a niece now who will be 47 on Friday, and she's begun to go through early menopause, premenopause, and she was like, "Oh God, I wanted to know," because again, here we go. She saw me, I saw my mom, and but she is really being proactive in terms of doing the research and seeing what folks are doing that can help, and trying to prepare herself. And I just said to her, I hope that you don't have to go through it as long as I have gone through it. And so just let's start having conversations and be more aware that we need help, and that the assistance and resources are not easy to find.
Nina, did you have anything briefly you wanted to add?
Yes, thank you. I'd say definitely we need to talk about it. It's not, let's normalize the conversation, because what is normal? Talk to your mum, talk to grandparents, because it affects everybody directly and indirectly. And it affects our confidence, it impacts the quality of our life. And if we were supported, understood, provided with that information, it would make such a bigger difference. Like I said earlier, we are prepared for puberty, we are prepared for periods, we are prepared for pregnancy. Why is it that we're unprepared and we don't want to talk about menopause?
Yes.
Once the menopause justice scales are tipped, then it's a win-win for everybody in the whole wide world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, each and every one of you. Thank you, Wanda, Nina, and Kathy. You have been an amazing panel. We appreciate the time and insight and your willingness to share your stories with such transparency. Also, we thank Astellas Pharma for their support of this event and SWHR's menopause program. We'll be sending an email with a recording of today's webinar to all registrants, so please be on the lookout for that. And to all our viewers, live and recorded, we invite you to connect with us on social media and visit our website, www.swhr.org, to register for future events, download women's health resources, and sign up for our newsletter. Let's continue the conversation with hashtag SWHR Talks Menopause. Thank you for joining us.